the Shadow Secretary of State for Business and Industrial Strategy. Jonathan Reynolds, you've got to think of the whole picture and how everything filters down. So Rachel, who we were speaking there, she's the consumer, and you're talking about the generators of all of this. What do you plan to do?
Well, good morning, yes, and I think that clip was very powerful about the situation people are facing. We laid out at the weekend, and we're continuing to talk about it today, a package of measures that would give relief to bill payers and households, so some relief for everyone, at least £200 off their energy bills, and for those people in most need, like you've just spoken to someone affected by this, as much as £600. Now, what we include within that is a package for business, because big businesses that are big producers, so steel, ceramics, these are sectors which are very heavily exposed to rising gas prices themselves, and clearly we need to find a solution for those businesses as well. So it's an overall package, fully funded. I'll take you through the components of that, but it's for households, for those most in need, for everyone, but also for British businesses very much affected by the spike in wholesale prices.
OK, well, do take us through the costings then, because there's a back of a cigarette packet kind of calculations that I've done. £600 million divided by the 800,000 businesses affected equals around £750 per business. Is that going to be enough?
Well, look, first of all, the overall package is worth £6.5 billion, and the funding for that comes from three sources. First of all, there's the increase in VAT, which is already accrued to the Exchequer from those higher wholesale prices. Second of all, our existing taxation from the North Sea is increased because of those increase in prices. Now, we're saying to raise an additional just over £1 billion, have a one-off increase in corporation tax, a windfall tax, if you like, on those North Sea operators. Now, that's been done before. Margaret Thatcher, George Osborne, Gordon Brown all did something similar. So we're taking some of that revenue and using it for the benefit of the economy as a whole. That's for households, but yes, for businesses too. Now, we'd work with sectors as to where that £600 million would go to, but crucially that should be aimed towards those energy-intensive businesses that are most affected by this. They're in a real position. We don't want a situation where they're shutting down production with the impact on employment that would have, because they simply can't cope. You're right to say there will be a longer-term solution required for those. So, for instance, for steel, we've said we'd like to joint fund pilots around the use of hydrogen to replace coal in steel generation. We would match fund investment projects to see electric arc furnaces introduced to those steel foundries that don't yet have them. So yes, you need a longer term plan, but right now we need a solution to the cost of living crisis for households and businesses, because we're talking about an increase here, say for households, of up to £1,000 in their energy bills, which will have a huge impact on inflation as well as that increase. I mean, I couldn't stress enough how serious this situation is.
Yeah. Are there any other big companies, big industries that you would have your eye on who have done particularly well throughout the pandemic? I'm thinking of communications companies, for instance, tech companies, delivery
Amazons
companies.
of the world, yeah.
Well, the case for the North Sea companies is a very specific one. So we're one of the most competitive jurisdictions in the world for extracting oil and gas, very, very profitable operations in the North Sea. And about 50% of our gas does come from domestic generation. Now, that's a good thing. Those jobs, that industry, that domestic supply is a good thing. But as the CEO of BP himself has said, right now the situation with that spike in wholesale prices, he's called it a cash machine for his business. And so because we've got that very competitive situation, we can use the additional unexpected profit bonus they otherwise wouldn't be expecting to receive. A little bit of extra taxation, but the benefit for the economy as a whole is very, very clear. And I think I couldn't again stress enough just how important it will be to take some action to mitigate the cost of these rises in gas prices.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be the big story of 2022. No one can argue with that. Look, Jonathan Reynolds, whilst we've got you, I have to ask you about a very important story developing this morning. You'll have heard, of course, from Australia that Novak Djokovic won his appeal in court this morning to remain in Australia. Well, we're hearing reports that his family are saying that he has subsequently been arrested and he could still be deported out of the country because of his non-vaccinated status. What's your view on that? Should unvaccinated players be allowed to break international rules, the rules of the country that they're visiting?
No, I think everyone should get the vaccine, and I think that should apply to you whether you are an international athlete or not. I mean, these individual situations relating to individual immigration decisions for other countries are for them, and I don't have the details. But specifically on your question on the vaccine, everyone should get it, and it shouldn't matter what your status is, it should apply to everybody.
And should Novak Djokovic be welcome to play in Wimbledon here in the summer?
Well, I would just again expect everyone, no matter who you are, to be subject to the same regime, and the case for getting the vaccine is extremely clear, and I don't understand what any objections to that would be.
What about talking about regimes, the previous Labour regime and Jeremy Corbyn? You've been outspoken on Jeremy Corbyn in the past, and you'll have heard these reports that he's plotting to form his own breakaway party. So here's the question. Do you think that Jeremy Corbyn should remain excluded from the Labour Party, or there would be a theory that cancelling Corbyn would do more to damage Labour? What's your view on that? What's your take?
Look, Jeremy's future is really down to him and the situation between him and the Chief Whip in terms of how he responded to that very serious report on anti-Semitism in the Labour Party when he was leader. There are no political considerations as to whether he should come or go. You've just got to play it straight and do the right thing. Now, he hasn't himself said he's going to do this, so I'm cautious it would be for Jeremy to make any statement about his future. But it is for him, and it's for his decision going forward, and there's really, I think, no more to it than that.
OK. Jonathan Reynolds, appreciate you talking to us today, outlining your plans for big business and a windfall tax on North Sea gas. Jeremy Reynolds is the Business and Industry Secretary for the Labour Party. Thank you very much indeed.